Good evening and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French, and we are now 33 days from the election day, and both the president and Joe Biden, they are stepping up their campaigning. And tonight, we want to get you involved into our program. And the way we always do this is by opening up our phone lines. In fact, they're open as we speak. We want to get your reaction to what can only be described as the debacle, that debate that we saw just Tuesday. I want to know, did you see or hear anything that will change your vote? What changes would you like to see for future debates? Should we even have more debates after what we saw Tuesday? Our toll-free lines are open right now. You see the number right there on your screen. Please give us a call. We want to hear your take. In addition to via the phone lines, you can also get involved online as well. You can do that via our email address. You see it right there on the screen at rnntv.com. And you can also shoot us a tweet. Our handle is LarryEP13. Okay, in the meantime, the president, he held a rally at Minnesota last night, and he talked about one of his favorite topics, the border wall.
Our opponents want to erase borders. I will defend our borders. They don't talk about the wall anymore, fellas. What's going on? They don't talk about it. They used to talk about it every day. He's not going to get his financing. But when you're a real estate developer, you always get financing. This was like easy.
Maybe he should have chosen a different subject here. Financing, not really, I think, in his best interest to remind folks, because, well, we know what the New York Times reported. He, the president, is in a huge financial hole. He owes more than $400 million that is due soon, and he loses money on a regular basis. And that is from the tax returns that we've seen year after year. That's why he pays $0 to $750, because he is, in effect, such a bad business person. Now, the president, he's continuing, though, regardless of COVID, to hold packed rallies with barely a mask in sight. He is planning more of them, in fact, in Wisconsin this weekend, even though that state is seeing a huge surge in new COVID cases. The mayor, in fact, they're begging, as well as the governor of the whole state, but the mayor of one of the locations of the rallies begging the president not to come. To this point, he's not heeding those requests. Plus, a new study is out from Cornell University. It shows that the president, he is the single largest driver of misinformation about the virus. Put your arms around that for a second. Researchers at Cornell analyzed millions of articles, and they found that more than a third of the pieces of misinformation were mentioned by the president in the context of falsehoods, wrong information. Our president in a pandemic is driving bad information. And for his part, Biden, he's also campaigning. He's touring Pennsylvania and Ohio by train. He's holding small whistle-stop rallies with people masked up and socially distant. Now, here is the former VP aboard Amtrak talking about the president.
He made it pretty clear he's not prepared to accept the results of the election if it were to say he lost. And what maybe was the most shocking, you saw how he said he encouraged white supremacists by saying, stand back, but don't stand down. Don't stand down. We may need you.
And now there are growing calls for the president to denounce white supremacy after he refused to do so during the debate.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
Stand back and stand by. Okay, the president, he was pressed about that the very next day, and this is how he responded yesterday.
I don't know who the Proud Boys are. I mean, you'll have to give me a definition because I really don't know who they are. I can only say they have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work.
He knows who they are. The way he handled that question about the Proud Boys, it echoes how Trump has spoken in the past with plenty of different issues that he doesn't want to talk about, and it certainly reminds many of us how he responded when asked about David Duke, that after the former KKK leader came out to support Trump.
Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists.
Okay, I mean, I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here, but...
I don't know, honestly, I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
He did know David Duke and had spoken and was caught on camera talking about David Duke before that interview. But anyway, let me give you a little background who these Proud Boys are. They marched at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, joining white supremacists and neo-Nazis who organized the event. We all remember how President Trump responded to that rally when pressed.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
Oh, we all had doubt about it. The Proud Boys were some of the fine people he was talking about. They were violent right-wing extremists. They're considered a hate group by several organizations that track such things like the Anti-Defamation League, the Southern Poverty Law Center, just to name a few. Take a listen to a senior analyst at that group describing the threat he views with the Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys really see themselves as acting on behalf of Trump and acting hand in hand with law enforcement. We have already seen them signal that they plan to monitor the polls or to be active on Election Day. Increasingly, groups like the Proud Boys and militias are seeing it as their duty to go out and impose law and order.
The Proud Boys are also celebrating what the president said on Tuesday, and certainly he did nothing in the subsequent days, yesterday or today here, to move away from it. They consider, in fact, a call to action. They've even printed up T-shirts quoting the president with Trump 2020 at the bottom, by the way. Amazon, for their part, removed them from its site, saying it doesn't sell products that glorify hate, violence, and intolerance, yet the president cannot condemn this group. A former Homeland Security official who resigned in April says the president's words are making things more dangerous.
For 3.5 years, you had people inside the government begging the White House to take this issue up, and they were silenced. I've come to the conclusion that's because he didn't want to do anything about white nationalism, because he views those folks as his supporters.
You know, we also heard, just as in a related issue, the White House in February got box upon box of masks, but they were told by higher-ups within the White House, don't wear them because we don't like how it looks. It's the same thing. The president doesn't want to condemn the group here because if he does, he feels he may turn off some of his base. Now, as usual, Republicans are trying to avoid the latest race controversy that the president has flared up, but there are some exceptions. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, he was directly asked about it, and Mitch McConnell responded to what Scott said. Take a listen.
I think he misspoke. I think he should correct it. If he doesn't correct it, I guess he didn't misspeak.
I want to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Tim Scott. He said it was unacceptable not to condemn white supremacists, and so I do so in the strongest possible way.
Last night, the president said another thing that Republicans may have to answer questions about. This is not the first time he said this, but look how he talks about not only a woman of color, but an American citizen since she was 8 years old. But this is a constant threat of attack. This is Congresswoman Omar from Minnesota.
And what about Omar? Frankly, harvesting's terrible, but it's the least of the things that she has done. How the hell? Then she tells us how to run our country. Can you believe it?
Okay, with that as a backdrop, a lot to talk about. I want to bring in my first guest to get into that. The COVID relief bill expected to pass the House shortly and more. We don't know where it'll go in the Senate, but let's bring in Congresswoman Judy Chu. She's a Democrat from California, and she sits on the very powerful Ways and Means Committee. She also represents the 27th District in California, which includes part of the southern part of the state. Congresswoman, thanks for the time, and what can you tell us about the HEROES Act and where it stands right now and the chances, and I know how important it is, of this actually getting through the Senate?
Well, we are passing an updated HEROES Act today, in fact, in a few minutes. So we are doing our due diligence in seeing where we can reduce the cost. I know that was the concern of Republicans. So we reduced it from $3 trillion to 2.2. And we reduced it about as far as we can get. We know that people are desperate to get their unemployment insurance. They are desperate to get the economic rebate. They are going to run out of funds to pay their rent and could be evicted very soon unless we get this relief for them. So I am truly hoping that Secretary Mnuchin will come up in the amount that he's offered. At the latest word is that he went up to 1.6 trillion. I'm hoping that we certainly can reach a compromise that will ensure that people will get what they need to survive this pandemic.
We all heard what the president said, or more specifically didn't say, when it came to denouncing the Proud Boys, and this fits a pattern. We saw what he said even post the debate in Minnesota about your colleague, Congresswoman Omar. It's not just rhetoric. Can you give an idea the way that, how he's described the flu as not only the Chinese flu, but even in more inflammatory terms? This has carried consequences. Give an idea to the audience just the danger that his words carry with them.
President Trump has used words that have scapegoated and blamed and divided Americans from one another. Certainly, we, the Asian American community, has felt it because he has tried to blame China for the pandemic so as to deflect the finger being pointed at him for the 200,000 lives that have been lost. And so he's called it the China virus, the Wuhan virus, even Kung flu, in order to make that blame even larger. And he's not stopped from doing that. So I was not surprised during the debate when he would not denounce the white supremacists. And in fact, when the Proud Boys was brought up, he actually repeated their slogan. Clearly, he's in touch with them, even though a day later he denied that he knew anything about them. What is terrible, though, is that it creates greater disunity amongst Americans, and it makes those who would be likely to blame another ethnic group even more so likely to do that because the president has blessed it. The president has pushed it, and that is not right.
Have you heard stories, Congressman, about Chinese Americans directly, consequentially being harassed because of the words of the president?
Well, I've heard far too many because I have been a leader in this effort to fight the anti-Asian coronavirus hate crimes and incidents. I have been tracking them. So let me just tell you, they've been occurring all across this nation. An 89-year-old Asian American woman was actually set on fire by people who hated Asians due to coronavirus. A woman, Asian American woman, was taking out her garbage when acid was thrown on her and she suffered burns to her face and arms. A family of 3 that were shopping at the Sam's Club in Texas was stabbed by a man who wanted to kill them because he said they had coronavirus. And 2 of the 3 were children, ages 2 and 6. And here in Los Angeles, a 16-year-old boy was beaten up by bullies and put into the hospital because they said that he was carrying coronavirus. So, yes, this is happening all over the place. It is everything from being called a bad name to being given a dirty look to very, very serious things such as which I just named.
I said right off the top how close we are to this election. We heard the president again, and this has been going on for a better part of a month now, talking about how the election will be either rigged or permeating with fraud, and it will be delegitimized. And he says there's an inevitability it'll go to the courts, and we may not have a peaceful transfer of power. Again, these are all the president's words. How worried are you, even if you don't believe that the system is that susceptible to fraud, that just the perception or the lack of willingness to count all the ballots by this president, we're going to have chaos on our hands here come November?
I am very concerned about this election because the president has been doing everything that he can to try to undermine it. And so what he's doing now is creating doubt. He is putting forth lies, such as the fact that he's saying that ballots have been found in a creek. There actually has been no such report of that. anywhere. In addition, of course, we have states that have been doing vote by mail for a long time, and there's been no fraud. And in other areas where they don't have an all-state vote by mail system, vote by mail has gone very, very well. So there is no instance where vote by mail has been beset with fraudulent kinds of acts. And I want to assure the American people that that is the case, that it's a very safe way and a very sound way to vote. And in fact, what I would say to all the American people is please have a plan to vote. And if you are going to vote, have a way to make sure that your vote will be counted early, or if you're going to go in person, that you know where you're going to go and that you have a means by which to stand in line to do that.
Congresswoman, I appreciate a few minutes today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we are in the closing, just about the ninth inning of this election. We got a little over a month to go. And what I want to know is, we heard a lot on Tuesday night at the debate. It was ugly. And I have an open-ended question as to even if we should have more. But what was your reaction to the debate debacle? What did you hear that either concerned you? Did you hear something that might have changed your mind here? Do you want to have more debates? All those questions on the table for you tonight. You see the toll-free number, 888-766-2428. When I come back on the other side, I'll go straight to your calls. We'll be right back.